In part 1, we operated the microscope to get a view of the sample through the low power lens. Now we are switching to the next objective, which is the high power lens. The high power lens has a magnification of 40 times and a blue line. You will notice that the high power lens is much longer, and you might think that it could hit the slide. But don't worry, the microscope is set up so that the lenses can be changed without moving the slide. As long as the sample was in focus under the low power lens, it should be more or less in focus under the high power lens. Here is that change, seen through the microscope. Because the gap between the slide and the high power lens is now very small, it is important that we only use the fine focus control to adjust focus. If we were to use the coarse focus control, we could crack the slide and damage the lens. As before, adjust the controls to get the best view. Adjust the diaphragm and the lamp brightness, along with the fine focus control. Using the high power lens, we start to see some of the details of the sample. This sample is blood, yeast, and bacteria. Look around the slide and find an area of the sample that you want to zoom in on. Once we move to the oil immersion lens, the chance to look around becomes limited. Time spent now to get things right will pay off when we move to the oil immersion lens. This is the oil we will be using. It is actually oil, which makes it sticky and messy. There is a glass rod attached to the lid that is used for applying the oil. Here you can see the slide with the high power lens pointing down. We are going to turn the objective lens turret so that the slide sample is halfway between the high power and oil immersion lenses. Because I am recording, my oil container is too far away from the microscope. This risks dropping oil over the scope and making a mess. Touch the oil to the slide, right at the center of the condenser light. You need a reasonable amount of oil for the procedure to work, but don't go crazy. You can always go back and add oil if you need to. Then turn the oil immersion lens into place, go a little bit further to coat the lens in oil, then rotate the oil immersion lens back into place. Here is what that looks like through the lens. You can look around a little bit, but you can't go too far because you need to stay within the oil on the slide. You can see material in the view that moves with the lens instead of with the sample. This means that material is stuck on the lens and not part of the sample. These colors are a result of the recording. In this microscope activity, we want to find a good view of the blood, yeast, and bacteria together in one place. But there are some other interesting things to see too. For example, here is a neutrophil. Here is a chain of bacilli bacteria. Only use the fine focus control when the oil immersion lens is in place. The oil immersion lens has a magnification factor of 100 times, so combined with the 10 times magnification of the ocular lens, we have a total magnification of 1000 times. Sometimes when you switch to the oil immersion lens, you can lose your view. The first thing to do is check that there is enough oil. There needs to be enough oil to completely cover the lens. You can repeat the procedure for adding the oil, being careful not to make a mess. If that doesn't work, you can change to the scanning objective lens. Do not place the high-power lens back into position. It will get covered in oil and be difficult to clean. Readjust the focus as best you can, then switch straight back to the oil immersion lens. Turn the fine focus a small amount one way, then the other if necessary, until you find your view. If that doesn't work, you will need to switch to the scanning lens, clean everything, and start from the beginning. When you are finished using the oil lens, switch to the scanning lens, then use the coarse focus control to lower the stage as far as it will go. Carefully remove the slide and clean it. Then clean the oil immersion lens with lens tissue. Here I used a half sheet, torn in half again. If your lens is very oily, then use more. In this example, I probably could have done with one more piece. You need to apply a reasonable amount of pressure to the lens to get it clean. Keep going until there is no more oil coming off the lens. Avoid putting the oily paper directly on the bench, as the bench will get oily. Take every precaution to stop the spread of oil. Here is where I should have started to use a fresh piece of tissue. I could have ended up wiping oil back on the lens. To finish up, put the scanning lens into position. Open the diaphragm, then turn the light control all the way down. Check that the stage is all the way down. Then turn the power switch off. Remove the plug and wrap the cord. Put the cover back on, then return the microscope safely to the cabinet. Match the microscope number with the location in the cabinet.